Why do smart, capable people still make predictable, irrational mistakes? Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying that exact question, and his research eventually won him a Nobel Prize in economics. Despite being a psychologist, not an economist. His book, Thinking, Fast and Slow, breaks down how the human mind actually makes decisions and why it so often gets them wrong. The core idea of the book is that we have two systems operating in our minds. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It runs constantly in the background, without effort, handling things like recognizing a face reacting to a loud noise or finishing the phrase, bread and. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and effortful. It's the system you use for complex math, careful decision-making, or focusing intensely on something unfamiliar. It feels like thinking, but it's also lazy. It prefers to let System 1 handle things whenever possible. The central problem Kahneman explores is this. System 1 is running the show far more often than we realize, and it's prone to consistent, predictable errors. Idea 1. Cognitive ease versus cognitive strain. When something feels familiar, clear, or easy to process, System 1 accepts it as true more readily, even when it isn't. This is why repeated statements start to feel truer over time, and why simple, clear language is more persuasive than complex language, regardless of actual accuracy. Idea 2. Anchoring. The first number or piece of information you're exposed to heavily influences your judgment afterward, even when that number is completely irrelevant. Kahneman's research showed that even random numbers can shift people's estimates on unrelated questions simply because that number was mentioned first. Idea 3. Availability bias. We judge how likely or common something is based on how easily examples come to mind, not on actual statistics. Dramatic events, like plane crashes or shark attacks, feel more common than they are, purely because they're memorable and get heavy media coverage, while more common risks barely register. Idea 4. Substitution. When faced with a hard question, System 1 often quietly swaps in an easier related question and answers that instead, without us noticing the switch happened. Asked, "How happy are you with your life these days?" People often actually answer the easier question, "What's my mood right now?" which explains why happiness surveys are so heavily influenced by momentary factors like the weather. Idea 5. Loss aversion. Kahneman's research with longtime collaborator Amos Tversky found that losses hurt roughly twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. Losing $50 feels far worse than the pleasure of finding $50. This asymmetry shapes decisions constantly, from investing choices to negotiations to why people cling to bad situations rather than risk a loss. Idea 6. The framing effect. The exact same information, presented in different ways, produces different decisions. A medical treatment described as having a 90% survival rate sounds far more appealing than the identical treatment described as having a 10% mortality rate, even though they're mathematically the same fact. Idea 7. The planning fallacy. People consistently underestimate how long tasks will take and how much they'll cost, even when they have direct past experience showing otherwise. Kahneman argues that most large projects, from home renovations to national infrastructure, run over budget and past deadline because of this predictable, near-universal bias. Idea 8. Overconfidence and the illusion of skill. Experts, including highly trained professionals, frequently overestimate the accuracies of their own predictions. Kahneman's own research on financial advisors found that their year-to-year stock picks showed results barely better than random chance. Yet the advisors remained confident in their skill, largely because the industry rewards confident predictions, regardless of actual accuracy. Idea 9. The experiencing self versus the remembering self. Kahneman draws a sharp line between the self that lives through an experience moment by moment and the self that later remembers it. Surprisingly, Our memory of an experience is shaped disproportionately by its most intense moment and how it ended, not by its actual average or its total duration. This is why a vacation with one incredible day and one terrible day might be remembered more fondly than a vacation that was consistently pleasant throughout. So, what's the big takeaway from thinking fast and slow? Kahneman isn't arguing that System 1 is bad, or that we should try to think slowly about everything. That would be exhausting and impossible. Instead, his point is that recognizing when you're prone to these predictable errors, especially in high-stakes decisions involving money, health, or major life choices, gives you the chance to slow down and engage System 2 before a fast, automatic judgment leads you astray. Understanding your own mind's shortcuts doesn't eliminate them completely, but it does give you a fighting chance to catch them before they cost you.